Digital transformation is a strategy. It is a strategy. It is a fucking strategy. Take 0. All right, so this is a little bit different of a video. There's been a conversation going on in Discord. There's been a conversation going on in various areas about digital transformation, and the conversation has devolved in some ways to a disagreement between whether digital transformation is a strategy or whether it is a list of products or projects or it's a product or whatever. Okay. It's a long thread in Discord. I'm going to read through some of it and I'm going to comment on the various points. It's just much easier than me going through and typing these really long, shooting a video, because this video could be used and shared with other people to explain that digital transformation is strategy. I want to start with, how did I personally come to the conclusion that digital transformation was a strategy for operating the business? That digital transformation, I think originally when it became a buzzword in 2013-14, right after the Industry 4 standard came out, the idea was that digital transformation was the process of going through that digital maturity. That if you were at the very first block of the Industry 4 maturity model, which would have been computerization, that you were digitally immature. And digital transformation was the process of becoming more and more mature, and you would get to the end where you would reach full maturity. Okay. Now, it's no secret that if you look at digital transformation initiatives or Industry 4 initiatives, it's no secret that if you look at those initiatives right now, there's a very high rate of failure for legacy manufacturers trying to digitally transform. Okay. And the question was, why? Well, the answer was, it really boiled down to everybody was failing in their digital transformation initiatives for just one of three reasons. They either were lacking a digital strategy, a reason why we want to be a digital company. Okay. They were lacking an architecture that scaled, a digital infrastructure or architecture that scaled, that didn't treat projects as standalone, but that they were one part of a much larger whole. And the third piece was they didn't have minimum technical requirements. They didn't have minimum technical requirements that encompass their strategy and their architecture to give to all of their digital partners. So if we were going to buy software from somebody, they were going to read through our MTR and they would go, okay, yes, our software is going to play in their infrastructure. Okay. So we took those 3 points and we said, what that really means is that digital transformation itself, the process, is the strategy for operating the business. Okay. So digital transformation very much is a strategy for operating our business where we're making data our primary commodity. Okay. And I hope to illustrate that I'm going to go through this chat in Discord. Then I'm going to show you some examples. I'm going to show you some slides. I'm going to show you some examples. And I'll hope to drive home this point once and for all, that digital transformation is a strategy. Okay. But the definition that we use for digital strategy is this. It's a plan of action that outlines how digital technologies, platforms, and media should be used to achieve business goals and objectives. Okay. It provides a framework for making decisions related to digital initiatives, ensuring that they align with broader business goals and provide measurable value over the long term. Okay, that's a digital strategy. And we just described digital transformation. Digital transformation is the process. It is the process of executing on the strategy. That's what digital transformation is. Okay. But when realized, it is the strategy. Okay. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at this conversation that really started here. It's in the digital transformation. It's in the digital transformation channel in Discord. And somebody, this Lackland WPWD, posted this YouTube video, which was a clip from my interview with Jason Bean. So let's go ahead and listen to what I said. Clients will ask the ROI, like, what is the ROI of digital transformation? And it's like, and we were just talking about, nobody knows what the ROI is. You can give a gut feel. You can give examples based on your experiences, but do you ever actually know what the return on investment is? No. And do you even know within 50%? Probably not. You don't know timeline, you don't know what the ROI is going to be. You do know there's ROI. You just don't know exactly what it is. All right, so Jeff Noonan, who Jeff is, I want to make sure I get it right. I have a lot of respect for Jeff here, by the way, so don't take anything as me. We definitely disagree on digital transformation being a strategy, but Noonan is a very, very sharp dude. I think he's a solutions architect for Libre. So I think he's the chief technical officer for Libre Technologies. He's developed some pretty awesome technology. So while Jeff and I definitely have a disagreement here, I want to make sure that, I point out that I have nothing but the utmost respect for Jeff. However, when he says Walker is wrong and right, I appreciate you saying I'm right. I'm interested to hear what he thinks I'm wrong about. I'm not wrong, but I'm interested to hear. So he says, a digital transformation, if considered as a product, it should be profitable. It should have a return on investment. The product needs to be profitable over its lifetime. Agreed. Yeah. I would never call digital transformation a product. A product is finite. It is encompassing of a feature set. It's all encompassing of a feature set. Digital transformation does need to be profitable. Okay. And we know that it is. The question is whether you can predict the profit before you do anything. And the answer is no. That means that the use cases that you choose to implement as part of the digital transformation need to have an ROI that justifies the digital transformation. Yes. You should not decide whether or not to do the use case based on the ROI you can or cannot calculate, though. Very important to point. My point is that ROI is not worth the paper it is written on. It is ROI as relates to digital transformation, and I'm going to explain why, is impossible to calculate. And the answer is because you don't have the data to calculate it until you've executed a digital transformation strategy. And I'm going to demonstrate that here in a second. Okay. The profit from the initial use cases can then be invested into expanding the use cases, which creates the transformation. Now, what Jeff's position here is that the use cases you choose to implement as part of the digital transformation need to have an ROI that justifies the digital transformation. And I'm telling you, no, they don't. You need someone. You need a partner. You need an architect. You need someone with experience in digital transformation to be able to identify the high value use case. But if you're going to ask them to calculate their ROI for you, they are going to make the number up. Okay, I assure you, they will make the number up. ROI is never worth it. This is an open secret in our industry. It's a fucking open secret, all right? The argument that you should just do it because you have to in order to stay in business is lazy. It means that you have not yet identified how the digital transformation will actually transform the business and what the impact of that transformation will be. Agreed. The truth is that how can someone who has never used a smartphone before in their entire life tell you the value of the smartphone? How can someone who's never used an iPhone tell you the value of doing your banking on your phone? Okay. So a banking app on your phone is the function. It's the feature. It's the use case. And the smartphone is the ecosystem. It's that came from the digital strategy. That came from Steve Jobs, by the way, who did not make an ROI argument for the iPhone. He didn't go to his board of directors and go, it's going to cost this much and we think it's going to yield that much. The answer, he went and developed a prototype. He went and developed a solution, a nascent solution, and then he had it sell itself. But it still required that he have the vision, the transformative leadership, and the disruptive leadership to do it, which, by the way, we say is a prerequisite for organizations who want to digitally transform. It's no secret that the emerging companies like Tesla and Amazon were led by people who saw things that legacy industrial leaders didn't see. Got this thing behind me, right? It says innovation. Innovation, that sign that I've got behind me, it says innovation, and it says innovation is Seeing what everyone else has seen and thinking what nobody else has thought. Okay, that's what Elon Musk did. That's what Jeff Bezos did. That is not what Mary Barra and Jim Farley have been doing at GM and Ford, respectively. That is not what the Walton family at Walmart has been doing, or the executive leadership at Target has been doing. They see what everyone's been seeing, and they still think what they've always been thinking, which is why they get killed by Amazon, which is why General Motors and Ford get killed by Tesla. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at some of the arguments here, okay? I want to point something out. I never said that you should do digital transformation to stay in business. What I said is the people who digitally transform are the only ones who will be around. You don't have to digitally transform. Hell, there are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. Okay, there are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. There are going to be people who are born and there are businesses that are born and businesses that will die. I didn't say that you have to do it just to stay in business. What I'm saying is I could say this with absolute certainty. In the world of the employee of the future and the digital supply chain, if you're not a digital company, you won't be in business. I mean, it's easy to say that. That's like, I mean, it's as easy to say that as it is to say in the post-electrical world, if you're a company that just stands your ground and says that you're only going to power your business through a fucking windmill out in your yard, you're not going to be in business. You won't be able to compete. Okay, I mean, that's all the statement I'm making. All right, but let's take a look here. So this is from a very famous manufacturer, this slide here. You guys have seen this a million times. Here's where we are. This is between the third and fourth industrial revolutions. So if you are a legacy organization, okay, if you're a legacy organization, this is where you are. If you're Tesla, you're already up in here, okay? You're already up this ROI curve, this technology S curve. You're up here. If you're Amazon, you're up here, okay? If you're any of the companies that are, above, in the top half of the Industry 4 distribution, let me go bring that up real quick. So if you're any of these companies, if you're any, this is the Industry 4 distribution. This is nearly 1,400 manufacturers scored across 10 Industry 4 pillars, okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, and then we do a normalized distribution, okay? The top 10 companies in the world, in our data set, they're up here, okay? These include Tesla, Amazon, Volkswagen North America, Waterfleet, you name it, okay? Those are the top 10 companies are there. Our mean score is right around in there. All of the organizations that are in the upper half of the distribution, everyone who's here and above has started their digital transformation journey, okay? So they were either they didn't exist during the third industrial revolution, they were created during the fourth industrial revolution, or they're trying to transform. If they are on the right-hand side of the distribution, in the first 2 standard deviations above the mean, then they're up here, somewhere on this curve. If they are on left, 2 standard deviations left of the mean in that area, they are either in this middle ground, okay? This is the Kaikaku phase in continuous improvement, or they're still down here. They're still trying to realize value from old technology, okay? All right, so you'll notice this right here is an ROI curve. You will notice that just by virtue of this slide, there is a period of time where we aren't focused on immediate ROI. And the question is why? Well, the answer is the foundation of the value that you get from here is an extension of these first few steps in digital transformation. So you have to connect, collect, and store the data that you created during this phase. You have to connect, collect, and store that data before you can start realizing value here, okay? And you don't calculate ROI on that. The digital strategy is we're a digital company first. It means we're going to collect every single data point, All data matters. So the moment we say we want to be digital, then we adopt these concepts. Digital transformation is a strategy. It's not a project. By the way, it doesn't end. You just continue. Digital transformation doesn't end. You just continue to iterate on a digital infrastructure. It doesn't ever end. Being digital is a way that you operate. It isn't something you do. Okay? So digital transformation is a strategy, not a project. It's about transforming the way you operate your business by leveraging data you generate every day, but never or rarely consume in real time. And not everyone can be helped, to Jeff's point here. Invest your energy on business you can help. There's a lot of people who aren't going to make it. A lot of organizations aren't going to make it. And then these are the 6 other components. Okay? All right, let's go through and read. Let's read what the rest of the thread there. But I want to talk about something. In this early iteration here, at the very beginning of a digital transformation journey, okay, once you've written a strategy, what you're trying to do is you're trying to draw an error vector in this first 2 phases, the solutions you're developing, where you are going in the right direction that ultimately will serve your digital strategy. You want to make sure that you're not going in that direction up, or you don't want to make sure you're not going left. You want to make sure you're not going down. You want to make sure you're going right towards achieving your goals. In digital strategy, architecture and minimum technical requirements, they are the foundation. They are the foundation for that journey. Okay, and if someone asks you to calculate the ROI on that, you're just shit out of luck. Okay. All right, let's go. This is a very, very long conversation where this Slackland WPWD commented on Jeff's statement about it being lazy to just say you should do this to stay in business. This is true. It is a lazy argument. Furthermore, I don't know the full impact of what the transformation will be. It's almost straight from the Wolf of Wall Street. You mailed in my company a postcard a few weeks back requesting information on penny stocks that had huge upside potential with very little downside risk. As an integrator, I honestly don't know how to quantify the impact in 1 month, 6 month, 1 year, 5 years. There's no way for you to quantify it empirically, but you can based on experience. And I do this all the time where I'm evaluating an organization. I'm going, if you look at the hundreds of organizations that I've helped digitally transform, I'm looking at an organization and I'm saying my gut here based on the full evaluation is, based on this math here, this licensing, this hardware, they're probably going to need to be prepared to spend X over the next 18 months. And they should expect a 2 to 5X return 18 months after that. Okay, and that's just me pulling, that's my gut. But I'm going to show you why it is you can't accurately calculate it. And the reason why is because so much of the data you need to calculate ROI comes from these first 3 steps in digital transformation, which is connect, collect, store. So if you don't have access to the data to accurately calculate the return, how can you calculate the return? Okay. So Jeff Noonan says it is very difficult to sell a digital transformation is not an A thing. Digital transformation is a strategy. It's a strategy for making your company digital. It's not digitization. It's not going in and going, you know what, we're going to digitally transform this business and we're just going to get rid of all their paper. And I think that's what a lot of people think is digital transformation. No, it's about realizing value in digital data that you already have in the business and then creating more digital data that will realize more value. But what you're going to do with that data is a function of the data you have, and you don't know what data you have. So how can you accurately predict A, what you should do, and B, how much you're going to save? Okay? You need to understand the customer's business, the financials, and their competitive position. That's why consulting companies like KPMG, EY, PwC charge so much for this. I've done it before several times through an initial paid consultancy where the objective is to get an agreed position from the customer's executive group on prioritized opportunities with indicative ROI for each opportunity. The DT comes out of the use cases, not the other way around. No, the use cases come from the digital strategy, which realizes the the digital strategy through digital transformation. That's what happens. Digital transformation is a process of solving problems from the plant floor up. Executives, the last people in the organization who are equipped to effectively calculate the return on investment for certain use cases are executives. They are literally the last people. It is not executives who are driving digital transformation. It's executives who are enabling people to solve their own problems through digital infrastructure. ACOS says it's a journey. I give you that, but you do not do this because you can. You are solving problems along the way. You can see how much budget you are spending on the feature solving a specific problem, and then you go on to the next problem and repeat. As you progress, the problems you solve get more complex and the solution more cost effective because you can build on earlier solutions. Yep. So select the low-hanging fruits to make a good start. If you cannot estimate a budget for a project, you're doing it wrong. I get it that digital transformation is a program, not a project, but it is made up of a sequence of projects solving problems. The digital transformation, just because we believe in it, does not work with most companies. If you're not an engineer but an economist, you are definitely right to ask for an ROI. All right, so let's do this. There's a comment that Noonan made down here at the bottom. This is a very long conversation. Here are the conversations that I did say. So number one, I did say I'll respond to this today in Mastermind. Digital transformation is not a product, and it should never be considered one. Digital transformation is a strategy, and ROI cannot be calculated on it ever. It's easy to prove. Show me one example of accurate ROI calculation before or post facto. ROI can be calculated on iterations, on solutions, and on use cases. What do I mean there? I mean, it can be solved. It can be calculated here, okay? It can be calculated here, there, or there, but there is a ROI that you aren't taking into account. You can't add those all up because ROI N here could translate into 2N at this phase. So the ROI here could be X plus 2N. And then we call that permutative return. How do you calculate the permutations? Okay. All right. I'll take it one step further. If you're the client, you have a vendor who's giving you an ROI calculation before you break ground, simply ask them to modify their compensation terms to be solely dependent on the ROI, and you'll see just how confident they are in their number. And what I'm saying here is ask your vendor, if they're giving you an ROI, ask them to be paid exclusively on that ROI only when it's realized. And you'll see them run from that number. Digital transformation isn't for everyone, but the companies who remain viable in our economy will be emerging companies or legacy companies who digitally transformed. That's an empirical certainty. Commercial and industrial digital transformation has lagged behind consumer digital transformation. We know the significance of digital transformation for industry by reviewing the significance of digital transformation for consumers. Show me someone without a smartphone and internet, and I'll show you someone who doesn't partake in our economy. You go in the future, 10 years from now, you show me a manufacturer who doesn't have a digital strategy and has not been deploying or executing that digital strategy through a digital transformation initiative, and I'll show you one who's not partaking in the economy. The profitability of digital transformation strategies are measured on the macro level. So generally in the profit and loss statement and stock price. Why? Because efficiency, capacity, and yields are all positively affected by digital transformation, and they produce exponential returns. So N efficiency increase in a line, an area, or a site oftentimes returns N squared or N cubed across the organization. So how do you capture that? It's the butterfly flapping their wings in Peking, and it causes a hurricane in San Francisco, right? The best, it is these permutations that we cannot quantify before we break ground. And if we could, we'd be at a blackjack table counting cards. The best example of ROI on strategy is in this image. 2012 is when this client launched their digital transformation initiative. That's right about here. Okay. And nearly all of the stock gains can be tied back to profit captured from operational efficiency improvements and later innovations. So from the late 90s to 2012, their stock price was flat. In 2012, they initiated a global digital transformation initiative. And they took the right approach. The approach was, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in infrastructure, platform, and we're going to acquire all data. And we're going to do that in one common infrastructure. Okay? And we're going to do it at scale. And there was no calculation of ROI on that. This is the project that took, 1.6 million, 18 months. Okay? Then once they started acquiring the data, they used the data to start improving the business. Okay, and they started doing that one use case at a time. Rick Bellotta chimed in, you got to play the long game. Now let's not forget it took 10 years before the Tesla turned a profit, and now it's paying off in spades. And then Jeff made two comments. This is the one that I wanted to. He said, what should we tell all the digital product owners hired in companies all around the world to drive digital transformation? Here's what we should tell them, Jeff. We should ask them, what is your digital strategy? We should ask them, what is your architecture? We should ask them, what are your minimum technical requirements? We should ask them, what is your plan to use digital to recruit and retain the employee of the future? We should ask them, what is your plan to make data the primary commodity in your business? That's what we ask them. And then when they stare at you with fucking glazed eyes because they have no idea, wait, Rockwell just told me I got to do this, McKinsey and Rockwell, they all just told me I just got to do all these projects in this big, thick fucking book they gave me. Guess what? Those are the same fucking projects they're telling all their customers to do. They didn't tell you anything different than they told any other client. What the point is how a car company digitally transforms is not the same as how a mobile wastewater facility or organization is going to digitally transform. They're going to be part of the same ecosystem, but the solutions they choose are going to be totally different. The problems they're going to choose to solve will be totally different. But Jeff Noonan said, I completely disagree that digital transformation is a strategy. Okay? A strategy is a choice. For Tesla, that choice was to create the electric car market. No, it wasn't. It absolutely was not. What Tesla's goal was to make humanity more sustainable. Now, they didn't know how they were going to do that. They knew that one part was, hey, we got to move off of carbon emissions. But many of the choices they made to build Gigafactory are not choices that, say, for example, Toyota made when they are building their production lines, or Rivian made on their production lines for their electric trucks. They're literally manufactured completely differently. Totally different approaches. Why? The answer is Tesla tried to copy the way other car manufacturers operated, except they started by collecting all digital data. One common ecosystem. So they were able to learn from that data because it was unlocked. That means the potential it was tapped into. They were able to take that data and learn from it. And they learned all the problems with the way that legacy manufacturers manufacture their cars. Okay, for example, they use entirely too many components. They use entirely too many subcontractors, too many vendors. They give up ownership of the data that's being collected. I mean, Ford even openly admitted that the software that runs their electronic control modules on their vehicle, they don't even own. That software is, I think they said Bosch, but that software is owned by the vendor, including the intellectual property. Okay? Do you really think that Tesla's share price would be where it is if they built internal combustion engines more efficiently than the competition? If they were doing it with a car that was the most expensive IoT sensor in the world, then yes, I do. But they, as a digital company, assuming they were a digital company, as a digital company, they would be steering towards electric technology to begin with anyway. But let me say this, digital transformation absolutely 100% is a strategy. It is a strategy for running your business. Okay? That's what it is. Digital transformation is not a list of projects. It is not a series of use cases. It's a strategy for running your business. And here are my examples. Let's go to case study 1. We'll do tier 1. All right. This is a company that did this project without a digital strategy. Okay. This required transformative and disruptive leadership, okay, on the part of an engineer who worked for this manufacturer, who brought us in and asked us to digitally transform a business unit, okay? So basically it was one area, 5 production lines, 47 machines. It was just one family of products. This is a tier 1 automotive supplier. It took a year to do the integration because there was a 3-month IT delay. We wrote a digital strategy because you need one to do this. And the goal was to acquire all data, learn from that data, and improve our processes with the data. We did enterprise architecture design. We have to put in full infrastructure, connect to all the PLCs. Then we built a homogeneous MES integration, heterogeneous feature development, unit testing. And then we collected the data at 90 days, 6 months, and 18 months, and we calculated ROI. All right, so there's no way you could not have calculated this. You could not have calculated this before you did this project, because they weren't even collecting the data that allowed you to calculate the ROI. Okay? They weren't even collecting the data that gave you the ability to calculate the ROI. So how would you calculate the ROI on that use case if they weren't even collecting the data? And in order for you to collect the data, it would take 6 months and $100,000 worth of investment to just collect the data. What you need is an organization that says, we take on face value that collecting all data points in our business digitally and storing them in context so that we can do comparison, contrast, correlation, and analysis. And we can use software to find patterns in the data that we can't see with the naked eye. Organizations have to take that for fucking granted. They have to be able to look at a smartphone and go, yeah, I mean, it worked for consumers. They got to be able to look at a Tesla and go, yeah, it worked for Tesla. They got to be able to look at Amazon and go, yeah, it worked for Amazon. And they got to say, you know what? They may be onto something. What could we do with our data? What data do we have? What people do we have who can unlock the potential of it? This is another example. So this is another client. Total, that last use case I just showed you was a $250,000 investment. It really costs $500,000. I paid $250,000 of it myself, and then the customer paid $250,000. They only had $250,000. So that was a $500,000 investment that yielded a $25 million return. And the reason we know it yielded is because we started collecting the data over time. I didn't show you, I briefly showed you the charts, but basically in a nutshell, production went from 35,000 units a month to 70,000. Waste went from 5,000 to 6,000 units per month down to 500. OEE went from the 30s into the low 80s. Okay. And that yielded 25 million over 18 months. In most cases, it took them 6 months to do all of the production improvements. And then they held the top number for a year in most cases. Okay. This is another example of a client where this engagement started with them with, hey, we need to show you the art of the possible on your printing press over there, because you're not, where you stand right now, you don't even know where to start with your journey. So what we need you to do is adopt a strategy that says, you know what, you're going to acknowledge the data in this equipment, the data all across our business is valuable, and we're going to turn it into value for the business. That is, in a nutshell, what the strategy is. But digital transformation is something that just continues. This is over a 4-year period. This is a client that spent a total of $1 million total spend. Their proof of concept, they didn't even pay for. I paid for it. Then they paid us later once they were happy with it. Once they were like, hey, yeah, that's valuable. We want it. We want you to do the rest of our facility. So I paid for this proof of concept. It cost around $40,000, and it took about 12 weeks. During that process, we wrote a digital strategy, designed an architecture, wrote minimum technical requirements. They were happy at the end of POC. So then we started deploying across the entire organization. So what we did in POC, we did here. Then we did a thermal camera project. Then we did complete order entry. So that's remove their CRM and integrate the customer service representative interaction with the customers into the digital ecosystem. Then we incorporated the art department and then job entry. So this is the job entry is it is the job jacket for each job for a customer. And then we did MES mobile expansion, and then we've been supporting ever since. And then they do new solutions, every 12 weeks or so on the same ecosystem. When we sat down with this client here, if we had said, we need you to spend $1 million, how much are you going to get from this? I have no idea. None. I mean, I can tell you, I know this is going to be valuable and it'll change the way that you do your business. And I know once we put it here, you'll be so blown away by the efficiency gains that you're going to want us to do a bunch of other stuff in your business. But for now, what you need to do is you need to ask yourself, do you believe that we have valuable data all across our organization? And the first thing we need to do is connect to it, collect it, store it, and analyze it. And then use the analysis of that data to drive all the future iterations. By the way, this was $25 million in year one. Year one. By September of 2020, they were doing $50 million in annual revenue. Here, $25 million. And the question is where? Well, they justified the expenditure, spending money on another printing press. They justified the investment. And then it's all through efficiency improvements in the rest of their processes where they were able to literally double output. And these guys operate in like a really high margin business. So with that, is digital transformation a strategy? You bet your ass it is. It is 100%. Okay. I stand by my position 1,000%. I invite, and since I did sort of call out Jeff, I didn't really call him out, but if Jeff wants to come on the podcast and we debate this, hey, is digital transformation a strategy? There's a whole other conversation down below where he talks about he concedes certain points and it may end up becoming a semantic argument. But let me say this, using precise language matters. Digital transformation is a strategy. It is a strategy for making data the primary commodity in your business. It does not end. Digital transformation is not a list of use cases. A list of use cases is a subset of digital transformation, but they are not the same thing. You can have a digital strategy without any use cases. You cannot have digital transformation without strategy. Okay, let me say it again. You can have a digital strategy, be an organization who is digitally transforming, and not have any use cases at all. Okay, your use cases come up on their own and you as a problem and you fix it using your digital ecosystem. But you cannot have digital transformation without strategy. Like if you don't have a reason for why you want to make data your primary commodity, then don't spend any fucking money on digital. Like what I would be doing if I'm I'm the board of directors and we ask our chief executive officer, hey, what's our plan to make data the primary commodity in our business? And he or she is just glazed over. The board of directors' job is to go find themselves a CEO who can answer that question. Okay? Digital transformation. It absolutely is a fucking strategy 1,000 times over. Yeah, actually, let me share this piece right here. If this is what a digitally transformed organization looks like, they're connected, they're fully integrated, they're fully informed in real time, They know current state, future state. They predict the future. They recommend how to mitigate bad outcomes, and they execute. What's the ROI on that? What's the ROI on it? Could our client have predicted their stock price increase simply based on that initial, and when they were initially going to spend that $1.6 million to connect, collect, store, and analyze everything? Because that's literally what the commitment was. Yeah, we realize we don't know what the value is here until we have the data to do the calculations on. Okay? What would they have said? If you had said to them, hey, tell me what the ROI is. And let's say that they use that as the reason not to do anything. Okay? I mean, at the end of the day, digital transformation is a fucking strategy. And either you have a strategy to become a digital company or you don't. But it isn't anything other than that. It really is quite that simple. And this is what digital transformation actually looks like. It starts with you do this one time. You inventory the business, the intelligence, you connect intelligence to the network. You create your infrastructure, that's unified namespace, okay, for architecture. And then these are your use cases. This is our iterative process. We present information, we learn from the new knowledge. That new knowledge presents new problems. We expand, we iterate, we iterate, we iterate. Now, we can calculate ROI on most of these iterative cases. The problem is the ROI for digital transformation is not A plus B plus C plus D plus E. There is what we refer to as permutative return on investment, where this improvement here has had a indirect profit improvement on this element over there. In many cases, solving use case A makes it so that it's even possible to solve use case D. Therefore, A needs to get credit for some of the return of D. Hopefully that drives home the point. Like, subscribe, comment down below, share this video with somebody who you think might benefit from it, and we'll see you in the next one.